We've been telling you for the last several days about this push by Stats Canada to get more powers. Now, it has not been approved yet, but it's been sent out to their advisory board. And given the attitude of the current government towards the mandatory long-form census and constantly saying we've got to trust the experts, I'm really worried about this idea that Stats Canada will be able to go into any organization and request any data file. My guess is there's an awful lot of businesses across the country that don't like that idea either. Dan Kelly is Executive Director at the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. He joins me now to talk about this. Dan, any data file from any organization, does that make your spidey senses tingle a little?
It does. It's a bit of a stretch. Look, on the long-form census issue, we actually shared the view that the Tories' decision to kill it was a bad one, that making it optional was not a great way to go with respect to the long-form census. But that's not a particularly intrusive process for the average Canadian. What this could mean is much more than that, and that we do worry about a great deal. Already, Statistics Canada forms and surveys are pretty onerous for small businesses to do. When we did a survey of our members' regulatory complaints, Statscan was actually fairly high on the list because the general public may not be aware. But if you as a business get on one of their longitudinal studies, you may have to complete a report and file it back with Statcan several times a year, sometimes for years and years and years.
Wow.
Taking time out of the business owner's life and time that they would rather spend working on the business, growing it, and perhaps working to pay off some of their big tax bills. So this could be a pretty big reach. We're hoping that this is something that doesn't get particularly a great deal of oxygen. I would be worried if Statscan has the power to grab any data file from any business for any reason. My sense is that this will be scaled back considerably. But if the way that it's worded, no question, would cause worry for us and worry, I think, for any small business that might be facing that.
It says specifically after that very general, any data file, any organization that they deem appropriate, it then goes into specifics and says, it says essentially, let us lay this out, but this doesn't limit us. It includes point of sale transactions, credit card transaction files, internet search records. I think of the many small businesses that I frequent now. Everybody's got a loyalty program because they want information on me, and they'll give me stuff if I give them a bit of information on me. And so my personal data is often with that small business. All of a sudden, that's in the hands of Statscan. I didn't say I wanted Statscan to have that.
No, that is a worry. And from a business perspective, here's the other part. A lot of small businesses, they depend on things like client lists or their marketing plans, or perhaps something that that's on a data file. Really, in many cases, can be the whole business. There's really no value to the business other than some of these key records, key accounts. And so having that, as data can be grabbed, and I'm sure StatCan would do its best to protect the data should it receive it, but should something go wrong, gosh, that could cost somebody their business. And obviously that's too far a stretch, I think, under any reasonable analysis of what the rules would be. So this would cause us concern if proposals like this get some oxygen. We're hoping that, as is often the case, a bureaucrat goes forward with some proposals with the broadest possible application, and then over time it gets scaled back to something more reasonable. I should say we depend on Statscan as a source of really good data on all sorts of points, including on business information. So we think that there is a reasonable balance that can be struck. We don't take issue with the fact that Statscan needs some data to be able to do its job. But what's being proposed or even rumored at this stage,
it's not a rumor. It's a policy paper they issued, and it's beyond the fact of wanting any data file from any organization is they want the ability to punish you if you don't. It goes back to this mandatory voluntary thing, and if it's mandatory, then we're looking at similar punishments. I know nobody's gone to jail for refusing to fill out the long-form census. Some have gone to court, but nobody's gone to jail. but you could be facing that sort of punishment if you don't hand over these data files.
Well, Statscan already has those kinds of powers with a whole bunch of other survey tools that it has. And I should say, we do at least a few dozen times a year get calls from business owners who are telling us that the survey requests are already too much, that the data request that Statscan has for them is beyond their control, or things that, they're asking a whole bunch of data points that just don't exist at that business, but yet they're compelled by law to try to fulfill the request. So there's already a bit of tension in the small business Statscan relationship. This certainly would take it a big step away from being what we would deem as a reasonable compromise. I'm hoping that cooler heads will prevail, but the ideas being floated in this policy draft certainly would be of concern to us, and I think of concern to anybody that runs a business as their source of living.
All right, Dan Kelly with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks for the time, Dan, and keep on trucking for all those small business owners out there like me. Talk soon.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.